Hey guys, how's it going? All right, a few things to discuss. So today we're going to talk about writing systems of equations if I were to give you a graph. Now the key word on here is writing. So we're not actually solving them, but in order to understand what you're actually doing, I would like to let you know what a system is. So for example, what are systems? Systems of equations are literally solving two or more equations at the same time. That's really it. So for algebra 1, we're going to be really stressing linear equations. So we'll be graphing lines and we'll be sticking with just two. So here's what two lines can do. There are only three options that lines can really do on a graph. They can either intersect. Two lines that intersect will only have one solution, and that solution is where they cross right there. Two lines that have the same slope, meaning that they're parallel lines, well, they will never ever cross. So they will not have one solution like this did. They will have no solutions because they will never ever intersect. And the last example you'll probably see is a line that is literally right on top of another line. Now, those have how many points in common? Well, they have an infinite number of points in common because they're literally one right on top of the other one. So that's why we have infinitely many solutions. Again, we are not solving anything in this video today. We are just simply learning how to write equations if you were to see a graph. And also we're going to learn, excuse me, we're going to learn how to switch from standard form, ax plus by equals c, to slope intercept form. So that is what our main strategy is to go from standard to slope intercept and slope intercept back to standard, because you never know how things may be presented to you as answer choices and things like that. All right. So what I've done is I've came up with a few things that might be helpful for us. For example, I wrote that slope-intercept form is y equals mx plus b. Remember that m, when we graph things, m is your slope, also called the rate of change, and we can find it using rise over run when given a graph. B is always your y-intercept, and that's the first piece of information that you actually plot on a graph, so it's the easiest to identify. Standard form is always written in ax plus by equals c. So the big difference is this x right here is going to be moved to the front. That way it looks like this. So let's get started. If I were to give you y equals 3x minus 10, which is already in slope-intercept form, how would I make it in standard form? Well, as we said, this 3x is on the wrong side of the equal sign. It needs to be on the left side. So we get rid of 3x by subtracting 3x. So these will cancel out, and we now have y minus 3x. Well, let's put it in the right order for right now. The x should come first. So here we go. Negative 3x, that's a positive y, is equal to, we still have negative 10. Okay, realistically, that could be it, and you're done. Sometimes you will see it written like that, and that is not a problem because it is ax plus by equals c. You're done. Sometimes people get picky and they don't like the front term being negative. And if you see that, what they will do is they will change the signs. Basically, they're multiplying or dividing the entire thing by -1. So you might also see it as 3x minus y equals 10. It is literally the exact same answer, but it just looks different. So this equation right here was in slope intercept form. We changed it to standard form. I am happy with this, but I just want you to be aware that if you did not see that, people might actually change this to be positive in the front. So they would divide or multiply this entire equation by -1, and it would give you your result here. All right, so number 2, we're going the other direction. So if I gave you something in standard form, how could we go back to slope intercept? Well, again, it's that same process. Now we're going to try to solve for y. Put it back into y equals mx plus b. So to solve for y, first we need to get our x now back on the other side of the equal sign. That's where it needs to be because x is right here on the right side. So to get rid of 2x, we subtract 2x from both sides. That leaves us with 4y, which I will write here, is equal to, now remember, we cannot combine these two things right here because one has an x and one does not. So we just rewrite it in mx plus b form. So mx plus b, that's positive 16. Okay, we're almost finished. Remember, this is y equals, not a number in front of y equals. So we get rid of 4 times y by dividing both sides by 4. So we are left with y equals negative 2 over 4x plus 16 over 4. And as some of you are noticing, these can be reduced or made simpler. So our final answer, y equals negative 2 over 4. 2 goes into both of these, so that would be negative 1/2 x. And 16 divided by 4 is 4. So that would be your equation of the line in slope-intercept form. So standard form, slope-intercept form. Okay, moving on to number 3. We're going to do the same thing. This one's a little trickier. So same steps. I'm going to take this x and I'm going to move it to the other side by subtracting 2/3 x from both sides. So now I have negative 2/3 x. That's still a positive y, is equal to 4. I will definitely start off by saying they usually do not leave a fraction in the front. So you have a couple options. One, this is being divided by negative 3. Well, how do you get rid of something divided by negative 3? You multiply it by negative 3. But if you do it to one whole side, you must do it to the other. So if I took this whole thing and multiplied it by negative 3, then I have to take this whole thing and multiply it by negative 3. This is a tough example. I just wanted to show it to you in case you ran into it. So when I multiply this, the negative 3's will cancel out, and I'm left with 2x. Now, what's negative 3? Right, we distributed the negative 3. That got rid of that. And we're down with just 2x. But negative 3 also multiplies by the y. So that's going to be minus 3y equals 4 times negative 3, which is negative 12. And that would be your answer. And if you don't believe me, you can always go backwards. This would become, you could try to go back to the original, and it would also work out. I'm not going to do that for you to confuse you anymore. But again, if you saw a denominator of negative 3, you must multiply everything by negative 3, and it would fix your problem, and you won't have a weird fraction in the front. Okay, let's move on to number 4. If we gave you standard form, let's go back to y equals. So 3x is on the wrong side. We need it over here. So to get rid of 3x, I'm going to subtract 3x. That leaves me with negative 5y is equal to, remember we cannot combine these together, but we can write mx plus b. So mx plus b would be a minus 10. All right, final step, we need to get rid of that negative 5 in front of the y by dividing by negative 5. And that gives us y equals, a negative over a negative is positive 3/5 x. And negative over a negative is positive. What's 10 divided by 5? Well, we know that is 2. and that is y equals mx plus b. I think it's a lot easier going from standard to slope-intercept, but I gave you these. This one was a relatively easier example, and this one was a harder one, so don't get caught up on this. I just wanted to show you what it looks like in case you run into it. All right, so the last one, which you will see on our homework, is if I gave you a line such as this, and I wanted you to know how to find the equation in both standard and slope-intercept form, we want to know how to do that. Well, the easiest way when you look at a graph is to write it in slope-intercept, because remember that's y equals mx plus b. So I already know I'm going to have a y, an equals, and an x. Now, b is my y-intercept. Well, this crosses the y-axis where? Looks like right here. And that's at -1. So all I have left to do is find my slope. Well, slope, remember slope is rise over run. It's also called our rate of change. So from our 2 points, let's start with the one. You always start on the one furthest to the left of the graph. So we're starting here. How much do I need to rise? Well, I'm rising a negative amount. That's why I'm going down. So that's -1, -2, -3, -4. It looks like I'm going down 4. So -4 over 1, 2. Okay, so to clean that up, our final equation, what is -4 divided by 2? It is y equals -2x minus 1. That's our equation in slope-intercept form. And now we know how to put that back into standard form if we need to. So if I have y equals -2x minus 1, sorry for the bad handwriting, then my x needs to be on the other side, needs to be on this side. So I'm going to add 2x to both sides. And here's my final answer. Remember, the x goes first, because here is what our goal is. Ax plus by equals c. So our x is written first. So our final answer is 2x plus y, or 1y, equals -1. I will say it's a little more difficult learning how to go from a graph directly to standard form. I would not advise it. But going from a graph from slope-intercept is a lot easier. And from slope-intercept, you can always go back to standard. Hope this helps, guys. And tomorrow we will be working on the same thing, but it's going to be if I gave you a XY chart rather than the actual graph. So we're going to be learning how to do that from tables, an XY table. Alrighty, y'all. I wish you the best of luck.